Good evening and welcome to the Village Board meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, January 27. If you're watching live on Monday, January 27, we encourage you to call in if you have comments or questions. Our call-in number is 769-1677. As always, you can watch us live on Optimum or Verizon Cable TV and at pctv76.org. And within a few days, you can pick up an on-demand webcast of this meeting or previous meetings again at pctv76.org. A few announcements to make about things that are going on and things that have recently come our way. I wanted to mention that I attended last week the annual meeting of Sustainable Westchester, which is an organization, membership organization of almost all municipalities in Westchester County. Pleasantville has been a member since the founding of Sustainable Westchester. They are engaged in a whole bunch of interesting sustainability initiatives, but the one that is most prominent for all of us is the Community Choice Aggregation Electricity Program. Pleasantville opted into that several years ago, which is essentially a joint buying program where municipalities aggregate the demand they have for residential and small commercial electricity, and collectively Sustainable Westchester sends that out and gets a fixed price bid from an electricity supplier. Just want to remind everybody that the delivery of the electricity and the service, billing, and repairs are still provided by Con Ed, but the actual generation of the electricity is provided by somebody else. Which is exactly what was planned in New York State when electricity utilities like Con Ed were moved out of the generation business, and they are really only a distribution system now. So long story short, there was some chatter on social media sites with folks noticing in their Con Ed bill that the supplier of their energy was Constellation. Constellation is the current holder of the contract through Sustainable Westchester, Community Choice Aggregation, and so anyone who did not opt out of that plan currently shows Constellation on their Con Ed bill as the supplier of electricity. Some folks that aren't familiar with the background there saw that and were wondering if they had been scammed. You have not. You always have the right to back out of it and to go back to Con Ed or to a different energy supplier if you want to. You can find out lots more about it and keep track of it if you care to at westchesterpower.org. I can tell you that the recent results and the results since the founding of this a couple of years ago suggest that everybody has saved a modest amount. Nothing amazing, but collectively it amounts to 7 figures across the many communities that are involved. And further, it has allowed us to buy an all-green energy supply, wind, solar, etc., which is a really important piece in generating demand for that side of the energy generation equation, and encouraging the kinds of companies that build and invest in the energy infrastructure to see a reason to do that in order to make a reasonable profit. So long story short, it's worth reminding yourself of how that all works. I encourage you to go to the westchesterpower.org website and also take a look at the Sustainable Westchester website, and you can read about a bunch of their other activities. They're involved in solar, they're involved in alternative powered vehicles, they are involved in various kinds of longer term discussions about the ways in which the electrical grid could be more resilient, microsites, other means of storing electricity in various batteries. So interesting projects. The Community Choice Aggregation program is one we've been in from the start, and I encourage folks, if you have any doubts about it, to take a look at the Westchester Power site. I do think that there's strength in numbers, and that has been proven. So speaking for myself, I am in that program both in my office and at home, and I intend to remain so. I think it's a good thing. We are continuing, as we have now for a few months, to collect food scraps on Saturdays down at the DPW Recycling Center. So you can head your way up to the 3rd floor in Village Hall and visit Noreen, and for $25 pick up a starter kit that includes a countertop container as well as a larger storage container and a starter supply of compostable bags, as well as a little booklet that describes the program. What it means is instead of throwing all this stuff into the trash, which eventually we pay for by the pound when we take it for disposal, compostable stuff, which can include not only food scraps but bones and clamshells, all kinds of things that don't compost in your own backyard but can be composted industrially can go into this. And if you're willing to do it, take that stuff down to the recycling center on Saturday morning, dump it in, and you're not only providing a service that benefits all of us, but also contributing to a waste stream that will produce good compost to be used to improve the earth. So $25 to buy a starter kit. You don't have to buy the starter kit. The only key point is if you're going to collect this stuff, you need to bring it in compostable bags, which are also available now at all the grocery stores. More information at the Pleasantville Recycles website, pleasantvillerecycles.org. Presentation on trees.
Sure. So there will be a presentation on trees, like you said, from Andy Reinman, who's, in addition to being a member of our Conservation Advisory Council, is also a professor of environmental science at the SUNY Advanced Science Research Center. So the CAC from Pleasantville will be putting on this talk on the benefits of trees at the Mount Pleasant Library on Sunday, February 2nd at 3 p.m. And the idea behind this is that you're going to learn all about the trees and the issues about the trees that are related to climate change. So very topical discussion and issues right now, very much apropos to the times we live in. You'll also learn a lot about the trees that grow in our own Nanny Hagen Park and about the village's 50/50 program that supports planting of trees in and around the village.
Thank you, sir. Newsletter coming?
Yes, so we have been expanding our communications for the village, trying to get more information out there about the general goings-on, both of the village board and of the village more broadly. And we have a new newsletter that's going to be coming out likely quarterly. The second issue of it is expected in a couple of weeks. It's called Pleasantville Posts. So look for it. It will be on our website. It will be linked to on our Facebook page, and there will be some hard copies available at the library, at the senior center, and probably a couple of other spots around town. It's going to include information about the Manville Road Improvement Project. So we know there's issues that people have questions about, so we try and take some of those meaty issues and unpack them for people. There's also going to be an interview with our building inspector, Robert Hughes, because I know people have lots of questions about the development going on around the village. And so there's a long Q&A with him, which I think people will find interesting. A couple of other sources of information that I encourage people to look into. You can join our village Facebook page. There's a link to it in the upper right-hand corner of the website. You can also get on an email list for more targeted news. So you want to know what the planning department is up to, for instance. If you click on, let's see, news and announcements on our homepage, then it will give you an opportunity to put in your email address and select whatever specific email list you would like to join.
Pleasantville-ny.gov. We really are hoping we can get more people signed up. So lots of folks have been reading in the news about the potential impacts of the coronavirus, which has become a major problem in China and has started to appear elsewhere in Asia. There have been a few cases in the United States, and a screening facility has been set up at JFK Airport in New York. The county health department sent out a news release indicating that they're monitoring it closely. As of the moment, there is no immediate threat in Westchester, and there have not been any cases identified in Westchester, but efforts are being made to coordinate the county health department, county health providers, in the event that it should become a problem here. Anyone who's interested in more about the county's efforts there can go to health.westchester.gov.com. health.westchester.gov.com. You'll find from that page a clickable site to bring you specifically to a page about the county's monitoring efforts for the coronavirus. So certainly a scary thing going on in China and now elsewhere in Asia, and pleased to report that the county health department and our county medical facilities are carefully following it and planning on how they would respond in the event that it becomes a bigger issue here.
We might want to mention that, speaking of things that you can sign up for, also on our homepage there's a link to sign up for Code Red, which is the system that we have for distributing information in the case of any kind of emergency. And we like to plug that on a regular basis because the more people sign up for it, the more effective it is were an occasion to arise.
Thank you for that. Then a couple of things we discussed in work session that are worth everybody being aware of. We are at the beginning of a project to add a modest set of lights on the back field at Parkway Field. That's the field between the bleachers and the Sawmill River Parkway. As folks who use those fields or live in that neighborhood are aware, in the fall, in order to accommodate practices when the sun goes down fairly early, we have been renting generator-driven portable lights, which is obviously an expensive venture as well as a noisy and unhappy venture, and not all that good a light source to begin with. So Jeff Econom, our superintendent of Public Works, has hatched a plan to put up modest light poles. These are not in any way like the ones that are around the main field. More modest light poles and LED lights that are carefully arranged to avoid spill into anybody's eyes. That project recently went to bid. The lights were approved. Jeff and his team are putting in conduit now, and certainly by the summer or fall we'll have that up and running and will not need to rent those portable lights. And also in the category of improvements at Parkway Field, as lots of you know, joint venture with the school district and a grant that came to us via New York State Senator Terrence Murphy and then followed up by Senator Harckham when he took office, allowed us to have new bleachers down at Parkway Field. There is now a handicap ramp that is at the end of the bleachers near the Henkel's property, because that Henkel's parking lot is the site of the best supply of handicap parking. The missing link is a paved walkway between the Henkel's lot and the bridge over that little creek, over to that ramp, and then a paved walkway that would take you behind the bleachers over to the restroom building that we built a few years back. So again, with Jeff Econom's assistance, he designed a route that avoided conflict with irrigation and the like, and within the next coming months we're going to pave a blacktop path that will connect the bridge, the handicap ramp for the bleachers, and then over to the handicapped accessible restrooms. And come the fall, both of those two improvements will be in place. Then the last thing I had on my list to report, a bunch of people have asked me about the status of the two related but separate projects we've talked a lot about for the last 2 years. The one being the Manville Road Improvement Project, and the second being the Memorial Plaza Civic Space. The first project on the agenda is the Manville Road Project, which is supported by $1.5 million in state-supplied grant money. We're close to the end of the endless approval process, fair to say, Eric?
Yes.
And expect that we'll be able to send that project out to bid within the next couple of months. Mm-hmm. We're waiting for New York State DOT, which owns Manville Road, to have the final sign-offs. There are a whole bunch of check boxes to be checked. As I think we've mentioned in the past, we're worried about what the costs will look like for that project. Obviously happy to have $1.5 million in state grant to begin with, but the recent reports from Public Works projects of all kinds around these parts have been that there has been a very, very rapid escalation in those costs, in part because contractors are very busy and they're getting very high numbers. So we have chopped out of that project some of the bells and whistles, switched back to concrete curbs instead of granite, that sort of thing. Did nothing to change the core benefits of the project, which are improved pedestrian conditions, bump outs at the corners to make ADA compliant ramps at the corners, and better and straightened pedestrian walkways. So we do think that the pieces we've knocked out of it are cosmetic. They would have been nice to have, but they're not must-haves, all in the hope that when that project comes back, we'll find that it comes back at an affordable number. So we ought to know that by this spring. At one point, it was our hope that this project would kick off in the spring construction season. That is seeming modestly less than likely at the moment. Am I being too dark?
Well, it's dependent on how
Yeah.
quickly DOT can get their review
Right.
turned around, but I would say late spring, early
Yeah.
summer.
So we remain hopeful, but bottom line there is that that project involves closing the so-called slip lane, the elbow exit from Memorial Plaza. Jeff Econom has cooked up a plan that he recently revised for the condition that we would create in Memorial Plaza, at least initially, that would allow cars to be fed out to the widened roadway and traffic light at Grand Street and Manville. That involves a widened area where there will be a right turn lane and a new signal to provide a right turn access. The reality here is that the Civic Space project, the park we have talked about which people have lots of different opinions, is the piece that would follow in the following year. And at the moment, the board is uncertain about what our options will be, mostly because we don't know how much the Manville Road project will cost. So bottom line is, we're kind of in stasis on the Civic Space project, pending the results of the bid process for the Manville Road project. And once we know that, we'll reconsider and come back with more to say about that. Any other announcements?
Water supply back to the
Oh,
the
yes.
Catskills.
Go for it, Eric.
So for the past 10 weeks or so, the village has been drawing from the Croton Reservoir as the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, has done a rehab project on their infrastructure along the Catskill Aqueduct. So we've received some complaints about odor issues. Again, regardless of the water source, it does flow through our water treatment plant, which is state-of-the-art, and every drop of water that leaves that facility meets federal and state health codes. So
And exceeds them by quite a bit.
yes, yeah.
Yes.
As they'll tell you, that plant was designed to clean water of the threshold of the Hudson River or the Mississippi River. So really, it's
Neither of which is a plan of ours, but it's nice to know we could.
yeah, exactly. But this phase of DEP's project is done, so we switch back to the Catskill Aqueduct. There will be another 10-week or so time period where we'll be switched back, but we don't know the timeline just yet. Again, New York City DEP is driving the boat on that.
Okay.
So certainly good news that we're back where we started. All right. We'll soon move to the resolutions. I just wanted to note that the first several of these resolutions refer to the private project that's being constructed at 70 Memorial Plaza. That is the building just to the left of the post office. That has been the site of the excavation that's been going on for quite some months, and now happily is just about finished. That is the excavation piece. But just to remind folks, it is a 4-story building there with retail space on the first floor and then 3 floors of apartments above and parking underneath and below. And several of these agreements that you're about to see in our resolutions are related to the negotiation we've had with that property owner about several aspects of the project, including substantially improved pedestrian access from Memorial Plaza over to Cooley Street. At the moment, we own, as part of the purchase of the Lane Plumbing lot, a pedestrian easement across essentially the post office driveway. And as most of you know, for many years, that's the way we've walked from Memorial Plaza down to Cooley Street, where Mediterraneo and the side of Key Food are. But that has certainly been a less than appealing physical route, and it also involved having pedestrians cohabitate with cars and trucks. So as part of this project that is being built at 70 Memorial, what I think will turn out to be quite a beautiful landscape pedestrian path is being built on their property adjacent to their building and will be the pedestrian access to the entrance to their building. We, as you perhaps have heard in some of our discussions in the past, engaged in a rearrangement of property lines to provide a small amount of property that we owned to that property owner to straighten out that route, in exchange for which we are getting a pedestrian easement that will mean that there is a permanent right of public access to walk from Memorial Plaza down to Cooley Street through what will be a dramatically nicer route than we've ever had before. So you'll hear about that easement in a moment. The other piece of it is that we have been in negotiation with that owner about providing some permit parking spaces in the garage below, and are shortly to hear in resolution number 15 that we will be achieving 25 parking spaces, 15 that will be provided without charge, and 10 that we'll pay for. So with that, resolution 14.
Whereas Pleasantville Lofts LLC, owner of property located at 70 Memorial Plaza, has offered an easement to the Village of Pleasantville for a landscape public walkway between Cooley Street and Memorial Plaza. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Pleasantville Board of Trustees hereby accepts the aforementioned easement and authorizes the mayor or the village administrator to execute all documents as may be necessary for the purpose of recording the easement, subject to revisions deemed acceptable to the village attorney.
Is there a second?
Second.
Anything to add to that, Eric, that I didn't already say?
Nope, just that the property owner will be responsible for the maintenance of the walkway. This is a good deal for the village.
Right, including not only the landscaping, but snow removal and the like.
Yeah.
I agree. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Number 15, Steve.
Hold on, let me get over there. Whereas Pleasantville Lofts LLC, owner of the property located at 70 Memorial Plaza, has offered an easement to the Village of Pleasantville for parking spaces within the parking garage proposed to be constructed on such property. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Pleasantville Board of Trustees hereby accepts the aforementioned easement and authorizes the mayor or the village administrator to execute all documents as may be necessary for the purpose of recording the easement, subject to revisions deemed acceptable to the village attorney. And there are 2 attachments in the record.
Is there a second?
Second.
Eric, any comment to add to that?
Pretty straightforward.
So it's for the additional 10 spaces, it's $500 a year that we're paying for 10 years?
Yes.
And then do they just go away, or what happens at the end
And
of 10
then
years?
there'll be an appraisal done
Okay.
by a third party that will deem what the market rate is for those spots.
How did they arrive at that rate?
$500? Well, it was part of a negotiation. Honestly, obviously there's a cost attached to all of this, and one of the costs attached to it is that the Pleasantville Loft Group, the Ericos, will be needing to manage this and provide key fobs and the like to our permit holders for ingress and egress and all of that.
Access, yeah.
So there is clearly a cost attached to all of that. Just to be clear, these are permit parking spaces, and they're not 24-hour parking spaces. The expectation is that these are for commuters. Mm-hmm. It is not a place where you buy a permit and leave your car there while you go around the world for 80 days. So, at any rate, in the course of this discussion, it is a circumstance where the rate we'll be able to sell those permits for is beyond that. And it was a means of compensating the developer group to some degree for the management aspects of all of this.
Thank you.
Okay.
Further comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. David, 16.
Whereas Pleasantville Lofts LLC, owner of property located at 70 Memorial Plaza, has offered a stormwater control facility management agreement and easement to the Village of Pleasantville for certain stormwater management facilities and control measures to be constructed and maintained in accordance with the approved project plans at 70 Memorial Plaza. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village of Pleasantville Board of Trustees hereby accepts the aforementioned easement and authorizes the mayor or the village administrator to execute all documents as may be necessary for the purposes of recording the easement, subject to the revisions deemed acceptable to the village attorney. Agreement attached.
Is there a second?
Second.
You want to describe the...
Sure. So part of the project, there are actually a small amount of stormwater infrastructure that's going to be upgraded. It's bit of it's on 70 Memorial property and then stretches into our right-of-way. They are going to be, the property owner is going to be responsible for meeting MS4 mandates by the Department of Environmental Conservation.
Right, so that's the state stormwater management guidelines.
Correct. So the facilities need to be inspected on an annual basis. A report needs to be provided to the village. We also have an easement to inspect the areas to ensure that they're being kept up properly.
So positive all the way around, improved stormwater and also good control over the future of the stormwater facilities on that site. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Nicole, 17.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the minutes of the meeting held on January 13th, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? Let me just report, since PCTV is a related entity to the village, that one of the things I commented on in the announcements and forgot to comment on in these announcements is that PCTV is planning its annual fundraising benefit, which will take place on Saturday, April 4. The honorees are the Gambino family and the Tina Gambino Foundation. So get thee to pctv76.org and sign up. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 18.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the hiring of Anthony Tufo as the crossing guard, job title 0141, at the rate of $20.62 per hour, effective 28 January 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Welcome, Anthony. We have an email from the police chief requesting his appointment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. David, 19.
Resolved the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the village clerk to advertise for bids for the 2020 summer camp transportation.
Is there a second?
Second.
That would be the bids for bus service to take kids to Splash Down and the like.
Yes, summer activities and programs.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. 2020, Nicole.
Resolved that the
I'm sorry, not 2020. It's 2020-20.
2020.
That's kind of nice. Huh?
That is pretty cool.
I feel like it's when I sit in this seat that I acknowledge the fact that we're in the year 2020.
That's right.
I'm getting to the
Otherwise,
age
I'm
where
pretending
It
otherwise.
doesn't just happen on January 4th. It needs
All right.
to, All
So
right,
this
I'm
is
gonna be-
resolution 20 of the year 2020.
2020, correct. All right, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendments as listed below. Budget transfers in the general fund, $873 from admin conference training to ordinance updating expense contractual, $3,887, is there a typo there? From health insurance to unemployment insurance. Increased revenue and expense in the capital fund, $46,000 from from Parklands. There's an intra-fund transfer to the Parkway Field Lights account.
Is there a second?
Second.
So the latter amounts to the money we're spending in part on the field lights are coming from our recreation fund, monies specifically allotted to that purpose. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. You don't get the alliterative one. You're 2020-21.
I get 2021 though.
It's not bad.
Right. I'm looking forward.
Okay.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the abstract for payment of claims dated 27 January 2020 for fiscal year end 2020, covering check numbers 95917 to 96010, as listed below. From the general fund, $217,974.53. From the water fund, $130,512.41. From the capital fund, $2,430. From the refuse fund, $23,233.34. For a total of $374,150.28.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions on the check register? Looks pretty straightforward, is right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. David, number 22.
Resolution number 2020-22, schedule public hearing on February 24th, 2020 to consider introductory local law 1 of 2020 regarding parking on Meadow Lane. Whereas Introductory Local Law 1 of 2020 has been introduced to amend Chapter 173, Section 60, Schedule 12 of the Code of the Village of Pleasantville. Whereas the intent of the local law is to prohibit parking at all times within 60 feet in either direction of the service entrance to Pleasantville Country Club on Meadow Lane. Now therefore be resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville shall hold a public hearing concerning Introductory Local Law 1 of 2020 on February 24th, 2020 at 8 p.m. at Village Hall, 80 Wheeler Avenue, Pleasantville, New York, to consider the proposed local law.
Is there a second?
Second.
Certainly, you need to come to the mic and identify yourself, although we know who you are.
I know. It's those FBI wanted posters.
Not everybody does.
Again.
Hi, I'm Diane Cummins. I live on Meadow Lane. Thank you, first of all, to everybody. In the, I don't know what you would call it, in the name of incredibly neurotic precision,
Yes?
I'm thinking that in the second whereas,
Yes?
where it says within 60 feet in either direction of,
Yes?
might be good to add a comma and on the same side as, comma, the service entrance, so people don't think it's both sides of the street.
That seems like a
Yeah.
good... What?
Yeah, this was just so we could get the public hearing.
Right.
The introductory law will have the specific
It's-
side of the road.
The meets and bounds and
Yeah.
all.
It
Yeah,
will?
be much
Yeah.
more specific.
This is just to schedule the hearing.
Okay.
That will adopt.
Yeah, I
or
know, just
discuss it.
sometimes whereas
Yeah,
has
yeah.
become
Whereas is
important
our- yeah,
when you're
exactly.
I know
having
what you mean, yes.
discussions.
All right, thank you. So I assume we'll see
Yeah.
you on February 24th. So,
Thank you.
all right,
I mean,
all
we
in...
could still amend this accordingly.
Well,
The reason we can't.
it sounds like we'll have it covered when we have the actual...
Yeah, Jeff went out
local law.
last week to take the measurement,
Yeah.
so we'll
All right,
have a
okay.
more precise.
All right, all in favor of Resolution 22 to schedule the public
Finish
hearing?
reading it? We did, right?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. All right,
So scheduled.
so scheduled. Number 23.
Okay.
Nicole, you getting them all.
Yes, I do indeed.
Nicole, you
Just say
can,
as-
yeah, you could skip
as-
down to the now therefore be it resolved and
I could. All right. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Board of Trustees authorizes the settlement of these proceedings so as to adjust the aggregate annual village assessment of lots 35 and 36 for assessment years 2012 through 2019 as follows. So for parcel SBL 106.10-2-35, so I'm reading each line here. Yep. Okay.
you know,
So
yeah, as you could just say as
As
listed and
As-
record.
as
Yeah.
listed under the record? Okay.
Yeah.
So this concerns two parcels. The second is parcel 106.10-2-36. So there's a reduction. I will just say for the first parcel, the reduction ranges from $14,960 in 2019 to $17,910 in 2012. And for the second parcel, it starts at $81,000 in year 2012. The lowest number floats around $67,000, and in 2019 the reduction is $67,620. Be it further resolved that the village administration and Keene and Bean PC as attorneys for the Village of Pleasantville are hereby authorized to take the steps necessary to effectuate these terms, including execution and entry of a consent judgment and the payment of any and all refunds required under the above authorized terms of settlement.
Is there a second?
Second.
So just to be clear, this is the result of a tax cert case regarding 160 Marble Avenue Realty versus the Village of Pleasantville. The Supreme Court of Westchester, index numbers 56696-12. And the result of all of this will produce a refund of $63,747.37, reflecting the aggregate refunds for the years 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion approved. Steve?
Okay, resolved that the Board of Trustees has, let me try that again. Resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the account of unpaid taxes for fiscal year end 2020 as presented by the village treasurer, and certifies that the accounts and the tax roll have been compared and found to be correct in the total amount of taxes unpaid. And then there's a attachment in the record again detailing such unpaid taxes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry.
So we've all been given a copy of the 7 pages of taxes that are due, mostly relatively modest amounts, but we obviously encourage folks to catch up with their taxes, whether it was an oversight or some other cause. It is not a good way to borrow money. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. 25.
Resolution number 2020-25, authorize the village administrator to execute the, was it dormitory authority of the state of New York?
Yep.
Grant disbursement agreement, Memorial Plaza Civic Space. Resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the village administrator to execute the grant disbursement agreement with DASNY in the amount of $250,000 for the Memorial Plaza Civic Space project.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we're working our way through the approval process and are not at the end of it for a $250,000 grant that would be contributed to the aforementioned civic space project that has come to us through the good offices of Assemblyman Tom Avenatti. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 26. You got a short one.
Yes. Resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the village mayor to sign the letter of intent for the village of Pleasantville to participate in the Westchester County Office of Emergency Management Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
Eric, you want to
Sure.
report?
Sure. So Westchester County has been awarded a FEMA grant to update their hazard mitigation plan for the county. It's awarded every 5 years or so, and they bring together all the communities in Westchester that want to participate. They identify natural disasters and emergency preparedness training for each municipality that's participating. So you identify the ones that are specific to your community and work around how to prepare and respond. It's a really good thing to be involved in, and I think it's worth the time and resources to be invested.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. 27, Steve.
Whereas the village board reviewed and discussed the right-of-way request for 87 Highview Terrace at village board work sessions on December 9th, 2019 and January 13th, 2020. And now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville refers the right-of-way application for 87 Highview Terrace to the Planning Commission for review and comment.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is a matter where a homeowner seeks to make permanent what is essentially front yard parking in a neighborhood where some similar conditions exist elsewhere, but just worth reminding everybody that in almost all circumstances, some piece of your front yard that abuts the road is actually property of the village because the width of the village property in the right-of-way is wider than the road itself, and you can't just take it and use it without getting permission, and these are matters of significant concern, and as a result, we're sending it back to the Planning Commission for their review and comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Anything else? One more announcement to make, and that is that the county executive, George Latimer, today kicked off in a more public way the county's effort to make sure that Westchester is fully counted in the forthcoming census. And it really important to all of us that Westchester's census is accurate. As perhaps you heard, if you heard Commissioner of Planning Norma Drummond, who came here and talked to us about 6 weeks ago about the census, there's some pretty solid reason to think that the 2010 census may have undercounted Westchester's population by as much as 100,000 people. And if I recall the number correctly, Norma indicated that the return of federal funds that are based on population to Westchester means that every single person accounts for about $2,500 a year in federal benefits that come back to us in the various federal funds that are based on population. So the failure to count 100,000 people produces a mega $1 million loss on an annual basis. So critically important for everybody to be counted. WestchesterGov.com has plenty of information about the census. You will all be receiving, for the first time ever, a card in the mail asking you to respond to the census online or with a smartphone. You will not be getting a paper census form until and unless you don't actually fill out respond to the original thing. So keep an eye out for that thing. Really important for all of us to respond to the census, and really important to get that word out to potential segments of the community that might be undercounted. So, any other further business? Any further comment from the public of any kind on any subject? All right. We look forward to seeing you at our next regular meeting, which is on Monday, February 10. In the meantime, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you and
Good night.